Welcome to the Game of Life podcast, where we bring you inspiring softball stories, insightful tips from coaches and players, and explore how the game transcends its boundaries to become a metaphor for life. Whether you're a sports enthusiast, a casual fan, or someone just looking for inspiration, you're in for a treat. We'll unravel the tales that go beyond the scoreboard. Discover how perseverance and hard work on the field translates into resilience in your daily challenges. Learn about teamwork, leadership, and the unwavering spirit that fuels success, not just in sports, but in the game of life. Okay, question of the night. I want to talk about role models / mentors / just people in general that you learn from. What are your thoughts on that?
You always start off with the broadest question I gotta answer. No,
How I do it.
I know. No, I love it. Yeah, I think I'm excited about this one. I think the first thing that comes to mind for me, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about choosing mentors or role models until later in life. I think when you're younger, you just see people and you're like, I want them to be my role model. But I think we think about it a lot more as we get older. I also think that sometimes we don't realize that we're role models for other people. I think just because you're not explicitly told that you're someone's role model or someone's mentor or someone's learning from you, people are always looking at you, especially in the athletic community. I mean, one example for me is I remember for our high school basketball program, I was a water girl in middle school. And the way I looked at those high school girls was, I want to be them someday. I look up to them, and they might have not known that at the time. But then I remember I get to high school, and then we have water girls. And I remember how I felt looking at them. Same thing with college, same thing with the coaching now. So it's just really interesting. And I think putting yourself in other people's shoes kind of helps you be a better mentor or be a better role model because you know what it was like on the reverse. So I think mentorship is incredibly powerful. I've had, a lot of good mentors in my life and people that I've looked up to we can get into later, but those are just kind of my initial thoughts. I think it's important to think about having a mentor or a role model, and I think it's important to remember that you always are one, even if people aren't telling you that.
Well, it's funny, the water girl. I remember your mom and I used to laugh because you took that. So you had water lined up ready for the timeouts. You were there, and we'd watch, and most of the girls would appreciate it, and some wouldn't. And my point is, that's where you have to know your role in the whole process of life, sports, corporate culture, sports culture, and be thankful for all that, whether you're the water girl or you're the player. I don't know. I mean, when you and Jenna were real little, I'd use the high school gym at the school I taught at, and older girls would come in and do basketball and softball with you. And you guys thought they were Olympians,
Hmm.
And then I feel like I don't want to say push that, but emphasize that to the point where you would do the same. Because I think that's where you get the greatest gratitude for what you're doing is when you realize people are helping you, and then someday you're in that position helping others, and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
and now and we're given examples where in sports and in school, age tends to be a big factor. Like an older person's going to mentor a younger person. But
Hmm.
in my financial business and in my years as an educator and even as a coach, I've had younger people be my mentor
Hmm.
because it depends on what you're doing. And obviously, in a high school sports or softball setting, the older person's probably going to be your mentor. But that's why I use the word role models, mentors, people that help you, because it doesn't always have to be age related. I just feel like whenever you're pursuing something, you look for the people that can help you, and you latch on and you act interested, and you're actually helping them get better. And I'm almost done with my rant. When I give golf lessons, and I just give them for free. I like helping other people. I find that's when I play my best golf. Like when I'm mentoring and helping others, I'm talking about stuff in the swing, and I won't bore you with like all I'm thinking about. But when I'm helping others, I actually get better at what I'm doing. It's the complete win-win, and it doesn't have to do with age, and it doesn't have to do with talent. It just has to be gratitude to gratitude, give and give. There's no give and take.
hmm Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because now that I coach, there's parts of my swing I feel like are better than they were when I played because all I do is talk about it and all I do is the movements and show. And I won't go into the details of
Right,
the
right.
swing either, but we can do an episode on that sometime. But yeah, it is interesting when you say things over and over, you just get really good at them. And that's why I'm a huge advocate too for a lot of reasons of even middle school girls or high school girls coaching younger kids or doing high school clinics for the youth and things like that because one, it gives you perspective, it reminds you you're a role model, and it helps you get better at your game. So I liked what you said about gratitude, and I also think it's a little bit of accountability. And the example I'll use is sometimes, I'm going to use technically your parents, right? As you're growing up, as you're a young child or your mentor, role model, someone that's teaching you things. And one story I've heard is right if you're a kid and all of a sudden you say a really bad word and your parents are like, "Where'd you learn that from?" And then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh crap, that was me." I think that's just kind of it's a funny story and obviously it can be taken into different aspects of your life, right? You don't realize what people are picking up on from you, right? If you're a high school athlete and young girls are watching your game and you're talking back to the ref and you're bragging and you're talking crap to other players, little girls, young girls are gonna pick up on that and they're gonna think that's the cool thing to do without you even noticing that they're watching you. So I just think that's really important to keep in mind, and I hope everyone could follow that analogy, but that's just kind of where my head went.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, you're right. When you're a parent, like someday people listening to this and you will understand that. You sometimes giggle because you look and your child's literally trying to mimic everything you do. So when they have that first swear word or that first crazy thing, of course it came from you or your spouse or grandparents or like whoever you're around. It's not like they're at Walmart and they randomly see a person swearing and be like, I can't go to Walmart anymore because people swear. Uh, I like what you said about perspective. I was using gratitude, but perspective was a word I was trying to look for that I didn't get then because once you can compare this to that, that's what gives you perspective. And at the end of the day, if you're trying to do something special in life, people look up to you whether you realize it or not, like you mentioned earlier, and it's called leadership, and you have to practice what you preach, and you cannot get people to follow you or be a captain of a team or be a boss at work or head of a team if you don't practice what you preach. And that's, I think you mentioned the word accountability too.
hmm
And all this stuff is so entwined together. We're not talking perfection and we're not talking about not making mistakes because that would be the accountability part of it. But you just have to take ownership to all this. I mean, there's so many ways, shapes, and form you can be a role model, a mentor, you can help others, and the same time, it's a reciprocal right back at you.
Yeah, and I think too, like being a role model, a mentor, someone people want to learn from doesn't mean that you're perfect. Honestly, a lot of times I think about my mentors, it's how they dealt with chaos that I look up to, or it's how they dealt with failure, how they carried themselves. It wasn't, wow, they're perfect all the time and they never make a mistake. I don't want a mentor like that because guess what? That's not relatable because that's not me, right? I want someone who is gonna fail. And when I look at them, I see something, a characteristic that I want to have or I want to be. And I think that kind of takes me to my next point of it's important to have multiple mentors and that's okay, right? You can look at someone and say, wow, I really like the way that they do that. You can look at someone else and say, I really like the way that they carry themselves when they do this. I think they're a really good public speaker. I think they're really positive, and it can be a bunch of different people and that's okay. And I think that's really important. But I think the part I want to get into now with you too is how do you pick a mentor, right? As you get older, I think it becomes a little more intentional to my point at the beginning. It's not just, oh, I want to play this varsity sport. So every girl on that team when I'm 10 is a role model to me. It becomes a little different of who do I want to look up to, and who do I want to kind of embody the traits that this person has? So I guess, do you have any advice or any kind of personal stories about how you can choose a mentor or role models, plural, in your life?
Yeah, I mean, there's no one size fits all. If
Hmm.
if you're a younger person playing on a varsity team, naturally you're gonna gravitate towards better leaders, right? But at
Hmm.
some point, people are gonna start looking at you much earlier than expected, right? And I think you can pick mentors based on do they just based on their actions. You can pick mentors based on their words and beliefs and consistency. You can pick mentors that have played the game. So I'm talking about teammates, coaches, even other people around the game, volunteers, helpers. I I don't really know the answer. I mean, when I was in golf, I mean, sad story turned good. When I was in seventh grade, I was cut because I was terrible. And then eighth grade, they kept me on the team because they felt sorry for me. And fast forward to the rest of my career, but my mentor was my golf coach that didn't know a ton about golf, but he knew how to deal with people and potential and how to bring people along. And the good kids in golf didn't want to play with me. The bad kids didn't care. And I just think there's no one size fits all package. It depends on your circumstance, situation, and what you're looking for. But that's why I added in the very beginning people who can help you.
Hmm.
And you could have multiple ones, like you said, based on different aspects in your life.
Yeah, I think too, I think the way I kind of differentiate in my head, especially like having a career now and wanting to have mentors in that world too, to me, a role model is someone who you admire, you look up to. A mentor is someone who's like gonna give you feedback too. And it can be both. Someone can be your role model and your mentor, but I see that mentor-mentee relationship is a little more actionable than like a role model might be, right? So for example, if I'm looking for a mentor, I want someone who's not going to tell me what I want to hear. I want someone who, one, knows me really well, and two, isn't afraid to tell me what I need to hear. Because I think when I think about having a mentor, it's someone who's going to look at me and challenge me and say, hey, I know you really well. I don't necessarily agree with this. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And they can also be my role model. So I think that's just kind of how I differentiate the two in my head, if that makes sense.
Oh, this makes perfect sense. It's funny in the world of education, when a new teacher comes on board, they're assigned a mentor. Okay. Now I always get a giggle about this because they're usually people that have been there a while. Doesn't mean they're good or bad. I'm not passing judgment on that, but they get paid. And I wish a teacher could come on board, teach a year, then get to choose their mentor because
Hmm.
it's probably the teacher that's not signing up to be a mentor because they're too busy still trying to be a good teacher. And that's why when you said a mentor is one that's actionable and gives feedback, you want somebody that practices what they preach to be your mentor, right? And role
Yeah.
model could be somebody you don't even know that's off in a distant land or you only see on TV, right? Or in a different state that you're just looking up to because you'd like to be like them.
Yeah.
That's I don't want to say
And
you're brilliant, but that's good.
whoa.
Yeah, I know.
All right, end the podcast right now. No, but I think too, one thing I've learned is when I say actionable, I mean on the part of the mentee for the most part,
Mm,
because it's
okay.
not your
Okay.
mentor's job to be like, what do you need help with? Do you need help with this? What can I teach you about? If you're wanting to learn something, it's important for you to go ask the people and, or ask the person you look up to and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Hey, I'm at a crossroads here. I really like the way you do this. Can you give me some advice on blah, 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 right? If I set up a meeting with a mentor and I'm just like, okay, hey, teach me, that's not gonna go as well as it would be if I come in and say, listen, I really like the way you do this. This is an area that I struggle in personally. Can you help me with this? How can I get better at that? What advice did you get when you were in my position? Things like that. So I think when I say actionable, you have to seek out the help or the advice that you want. And shifting to the softball world, obviously your coach is going to coach you, but it's a lot easier for them to help you with the right things if you tell them what you need help with. So I think just being able to take action from a mentee perspective or like a player perspective and ask for help is going to get you a lot further or closer to where you want to go.
It's funny. I think as I keep talking, I'm talking more like from a mentor position because I mean, I'm older. I'm 53 years old, and when I'm with students all the time and talking about mentorship, I'm not in an atmosphere where I'm looking for a lot of mentors, although I could list six like really easy of
Yeah.
people. Uh, so yeah, when I say practice what you preach, I'm talking about if you're going to be a mentor, you should be doing that. But if you're going to be someone that's being mentored, like you look for those people, but then they shouldn't have to give you lists and goals and action plans. You should want to just literally mirror that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Uh, I, I don't want to give the details right now, but we were out of town with some students for an event yesterday, and this one kid that wants to have said career, I go interview this guy over here that's doing the same thing as you. And they got talking, then they were exchanging numbers and this and that. And all of a sudden, this guy's a mentor and they're going to do a gig making money together this week out of town.
That's crazy.
Well, because again, the mentor saw the value in how much action the mentee was taking. And then the mentee saw how much value the mentor. I don't know, it just blows my mind. I wish I could be more specific. It sounds kind of weird, but
No, but the thing
see it all
I
the
think
time.
is so interesting too is after you go through something in your life, you like want to mentor people. You know what I'm saying? But when you're a mentee, you're like, well, I don't know if I should ask someone. I don't want to bother them. So there's this weird disconnect of no, they want to tell you for the most part. I'm sure there's people
Yeah.
out there who don't, but I just think if you're someone right now wanting to ask for help or like wanting to ask someone to be their mentor or wanting to get extra help from a coach, ask them because 95% of the time, let's call it, I bet they're going to be not just willing, but excited to help you
Yeah.
with whatever it is that you need. So,
And you talked about chaos and failure. Those people that have been through that type of adversity definitely want to mentor you, but don't expect them to hold your hand because they're going to want you to fail. If you're not going through any of that, you're literally not trying hard enough.
hmm
Obviously, people are more gifted than others. They're put in different environments. They get head starts that others don't receive. But that just means you get a head start in pushing yourself out of comfort zones and limits that make you fail. And that's okay. And I think the best mentors may not even be the best athletes, the best business people, the richest people, but they're the ones that have had so many ups and downs and got through them and are living their best life.
Yeah, they're the ones that have been through the most. And I think the other thing too is you don't have to listen to every single word everybody tells you. It's just about being open because if you're not open, you're not going to receive anything. And one of my favorite things you always told me growing up, and you still tell me to this day, and you don't mean it, you mean it from like a teaching perspective and just staying open. You say, I've been where you are, but you've never been where I am, which is true because you've
Yeah.
been my age. I've never been yours. You've been a recent college grad, right? You've been all this
Yeah.
stuff that I've been. And I think when you have that mindset shift, it just kind of helps you listen a little bit more. So I think if you're someone out there who just doesn't really want to listen to what someone has to say and you just kind of let it go in one ear and right out the other, just know that they're probably trying to come from a good place and you can let it go if you want, but make sure you actively listen to what they're saying to see if there's 5% of the information that could somehow be of benefit to you.
Yeah, at least let it pass through from ear to ear and see if something sticks. Because, yeah, when I was a recent college grad, I mean, we didn't even have cell phones. So I'm not saying I knew what you knew and my path, your path, blah, blah, blah. But there are some things that you could take from that, right? The
Mhm.
struggles or the choices or the uncertainty. So when older people give you advice or tell their story, at least listen because something might resonate.
Yeah. And I think to your point earlier, you can look up to someone who's younger than you. I mean, sports is a perfect display of that. I mean, I think about my time at Binghamton. I had one of the freshmen, her and I had the best back and forth ever. And she was someone who like I looked up to in a lot of ways, the way she played the game and like the level of competitiveness, like the competitor that she was. So I think sports is a great kind of metaphor for that in life too, that you can admire things about people who are younger than you.
What are your thoughts on uh, a teammate that has your starting spot? Can you still learn from them? Can you still look up for them, or do they have to be your adversary?
No, 100% you can look up to them. I think no matter what position somebody's in, I guarantee you can find one thing about them that you have something positive to say. So, right? So, no matter what it is, you could maybe not get along with a person in 95% of the capacity of what they are, but I guarantee you, you could find one thing to say, wow, she's really athletic. Wow, she's a fighter. Wow, I really like the way she handles adversity. She has a really good skill set in this. So I think it's not about, right? Sometimes if you look at someone, you don't have to say, wow, they're my role model. I admire everything about them. You can say, I admire the way that they do this.
Hmm.
And if you meet, right, if you have 20 people on your team and you say one thing about every single person, you can learn from anybody on the field that you're next to or whatever sport that you're playing. So I think it's just important though, because if you don't have the right mindset, you're never going to do that. You're only going to focus on the negative.
Well, we're gonna end with that. I admire the way you do this, and you could run that sentence through everybody on your team or work, right? I mean, when
Mhm.
it transfers after sports, and you'd be a much better person.
Yeah. And I feel like when you're picking a mentor, it should be that's someone who I admire a lot about, right? Maybe not this one thing, but if I want to pick someone to
Yeah.
formally ask
Okay.
them, like, hey, will you be my mentor? It's probably because there was a lot of those individual things that I look up to in that person.
You're not just cherry picking one thing to say nice about somebody.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Hey, great
Right.
convo. I think I'm going to consider you a mentor now because I learned from what you were saying today.
Well, I was just gonna say you're one of my role models, so and mentor,
Oh,
so
okay. Okay. Use your words wisely. Hey,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. All right,
Till
bye.
next time. See ya. Bye.